Hello everyone and welcome back to the 2019 FIDE Grand Prix. It's the finals, Jan-Krzysztof Duda versus Alexander Grischuk. Sorry about not showing this game earlier, but we were kind of busy with the TAL game and everything. And I forgot to mention in the previous video, the one where you could enter the giveaway. The giveaway will be on Saturday well, not during the tournament, but after the tournament where we're going to be playing some games. So I forgot to mention in the previous video if you want to enter the giveaway. In the previous video, the one where Tal faces Miller, you have to comment something about Tal and write hashtag Tal. So in the first thing you will see in the description below is a link to that video. If you want to enter the giveaway, do go to that video and write something, well, hopefully nice about Tal and use hashtag Tal. But anything, you can write anything and use hashtag Tal. That will also work, but it would be nicer if you write something nice about TAL. And also, I forgot to mention in the previous video, every time I reach a milestone, this time 500,000 subscribers, I always invite my viewers to check out my video when I reached 1,000 subscribers. So if any of you are interested in doing YouTube, or maybe you don't think that you have what it takes to be on YouTube, check out the video I made when I reached 1,000 subscribers, and you will immediately change your mind because it's quite different from the videos I make now. So the second link in the description below will be that video. Do check it out and hope it inspires you, as it is quite bad. So there you have it. Now getting back to this game, this is game 2 of their classical encounter, because first they're playing 2 classical games, then they're going into rapids, and you know the drill. The first game of the classical time control ended in a draw. I didn't feel the need to show it, as it was a pretty drawish game and not a lot of action going on. So I know you guys don't enjoy that. But this game, it's a bit different. It's the second game of the classical time format, and this time Duda has white and Grischuk has the black pieces. So without further ado, let's check out the game. Duda opens with d4. Sorry about that. We have knight to f6 by Grischuk. We have c4, e6, and of course we have the Queen's Gambit decline, knight f3, d5, knight to c3, bishop to e7, and bishop to f4 now. We have castles, and now comes e3. Now that the bishop is out of the cage, you can just close the structure. Knight b to d7, preparing c5, and rook to c1. We have c5 by black, a lot of tension going on in the center. D captures on c5, knight captures, we have c captures, knight captures, and even one more trade. Knight captures and e captures on d5. And this position has been reached several times, and always in this position a3 was played. And a3 is played in this game by Duda. Makes sense. If queen to a5 check comes, you want to be able to block it with b4, even win a piece if possible. And here there are moves that black played. Bishop to e6 is a known move, bishop to g4 is a known move. So basically you want to develop your light square bishop and prepare the development of the rook on c8. But here Grischuk plays bishop to d7. It's a new move in the position, and it is already, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game on our hands. So what's bishop to d7? It's a really weird move. I mean, this is a much more active square. This is a much more active square. And on the other hand, bishop to d7 says, are you interested in this nice juicy pawn? So here, Duda really spent a lot of time trying to calculate what is this sorcery Grischuk is doing already on move 11, and can he actually grab the d5 pawn? Because it's a Grischuk, anything can happen. So here, after, I think Duda took some 15, maybe even more than 15 minutes to decide on this move, and he decided to capture the d5 pawn. And okay, what does black play here? And it's interesting, I can't figure out if Grischuk had this bishop to d7 move prepared at home, or was it an inspiration over the board, because here, if you put this position to an engine, it will give you a lot of interesting ideas, queen to a5 check being only one of them, and it is the one that we're going to explore. So queen to a5 check, we said that it doesn't work because of b4, but here, since the queen is no longer guarding the rook on c1, here b4 doesn't really work, because now you can just capture on a3, and if the knight is captured, you're just going to capture the rook here with check. So here white would have to go for rook captures, but you're not going to give up the 2 pieces for a rook. You're going to go queen b4 check, and now it's just winning for black. You have to block or something, just bishop captures, and black is completely winning here. So this is one of the options you have after queen to a5 check. Another option is just to block with the rook c3, but then you can play bishop to e6, now grabbing a lot of development for that sacrificed pawn. And here b4, attacking the queen, queen to a4, and here after white moves the queen, let's say queen to h5, now you can play rook to c8, and here really just a lot of mess happens on the board because you cannot capture the knight. That's the whole point. If you capture the knight, then queen a5, and now your rook is under attack. You cannot defend it, and it's too easy to add more attackers to the rook. Rook captures on c5, we'll add another attacker. Bishop, bishop to f6, we'll add another attacker, and the black will just win this game easily. So after queen to a5 check, b4 not a good move, rook c3 not a good move, but there is queen to d2, and here queen captures on d2 check, followed by knight captures on d2, and the rook 8 to c8, with the threat of knight to d3 check, which would pick up the rook on c1. So here you would have to defend this, let's say rook d1, but now bishop to a4 kicks the rook back, rook b1, and now rook f to d8, and for the price of one pawn you've mobilized all of your pieces. So this is one way to go about it, but that's why I'm saying that after queen captures on d5, it's hard to say if Grischuk prepared bishop to d7 over the board, or was it an inspiration over the board, or was it some crazy home preparation, because queen to a5 check was not played. Rook 8 to c8 was Grischuk's move. And okay, we have e4 by Duda, and now comes queen to b6, getting the queen into the game. Also queen captures on b2 might be an idea. We have b4 attacking the knight, and here comes rook f to d8. So Grischuk offers the knight on c5, but not really, as you'll see in the game. So Duda accepts the knight. We have b captures on c5, and now bishop captures on c5, so threatening to capture on f2 with check, and also Duda's king is still in the center of the board, so it's quite an unpleasant position. Duda finds the very strong bishop to e2, and this was probably the toughest move to find, because well, you have to calculate that after bishop captures and king f1, that white is okay, that okay, you will have some problems developing the rook, but once you play g3, maybe get the king over to g2, bring the rook into the game, you will be fine. And also c1 is defended by the bishop, so that's not a problem. The light square bishop doesn't have any excellent discoveries, so that's not a problem either. And all in all, white would be okay here. So this is what Duda found when he found bishop to e2, an incredibly strong move. So bishop to b5, as Duda also prepared castling, Grischuk doesn't allow it. He says, okay, you castle, I win back my piece. That is the bishop on e2. So here Duda plays another excellent move, the only good move in the position. Rook captures on c5. You can't hold on to that much material, you have to give something back. We have rook captures on c5, and now queen to b3. Getting the queen back, also not allowing bishop captures here. Queen to c6, not unpinning. Again, you cannot castle because just bishop captures on e2, and here we have bishop to e3, attacking the rook here. And Grischuk goes for bishop captures on e2. He says, okay, you can capture with the king, and then I'm just going to go queen to a6 check, and your king is staying in the center of the board. But Duda played bishop captures on c5 instead. He says, I'm going to trade down as much as possible before I decide whether my king stays in the center of the board. And here is where there was a lot of Twitter controversy where, well, Grischuk played bishop captures on f3. Everyone said that, okay, queen captures on e4 is a must-play move. Because, okay, everyone sees that after queen captures on e4, there are obviously a lot of very nasty discoveries here. If you play something like bishop to e3, it would be very unpleasant for white, because after bishop to b4 with an attack on the queen, once the queen moves, the king remains in the center of the board due to the light square bishop, and okay, it doesn't matter that you sacrifice material, this rook is not coming into the game anytime soon. The problem is, after queen captures on e4, you have knight to d2, and this is a very nice defensive resource, because now after queen captures on g2, you have king captures on e2. This is the point, and here it's a very double-edged game. Queen captures on h1 with check, bishop captures on a7, queen captures on h2, queen captures on b7, and you get this position, for example, after queen to d6, threatening just to capture the knight here, where white has a bishop and the knight for a rook, but with the white king being so wide open, it's well, only black can be better here, even though white should be better, but with so many options of checking the white king, this is, for a human, this is unplayable. So this is something that you could have gone for with queen captures on e4, but the problem is this is the second game of the classics. If Grischuk loses this, he's well, he just lost the FIDE Grand Prix, and he's fighting for first place, which would really mean a lot to him regarding the qualifications to the candidates tournament. So here Grischuk went for bishop captures on f3, just winning back the piece. And okay, queen captures on f3, queen captures on c5. Now the material is equal, he wins back his pawn, and Duda takes this opportunity because he's not gonna get another one to castle finally. We have castles. And also, Grischuk has a very nice chances here. Basically, the plan is b5, a5, b4, and create a pass pawn on the queen side, maybe put a rook behind it, and push it to victory. So that's what Grischuk is betting on. With b5, he starts with this plan, and now h4. Duda makes an escape route for his king, so he can start activating pieces. With h6, Grischuk does the same, and now rook to b1. And here, Grischuk doesn't go for a5. He doesn't, for some reason, he abandons the plan, or maybe it wasn't a plan at all to just create it right away. He instead plays a6. He says, okay, as long as your rook is here, I'm going to keep my pawn on a6. If you decide to play something else, then maybe a5, b4 is an idea. So I guess it's one of those, the threat is stronger than the execution ideas. But okay, rook to b3 by Duda, now getting a defender to the entire third rank, so the queen doesn't have to keep an eye on the a3 pawn. You can now activate the queen, and the queen e5. A nice centralizing move with the queen, covering the h2 square, so if the queen moves from the defense of the d1 square, you can also just deliver mate. So g3, Duda takes care of that, and now rook to d4, piling up on the e4 pawn. We have rook to e3, Duda defends it, and now finally a5, preparing b4. Now Grischuk is ready to create a passed pawn. Queen to g4 with ideas of queen to c8 check, and then remaneuvering the queen over to the queen side. Maybe even something like king g2 to h3 or f4 could be an idea in the future, but very unlikely. You don't want to open up your king more than necessary. b4 finally by Grischuk. A captures, the passed pawn is created, and now queen to c8 check. This is what Duda had in mind. King to h7, and now queen to b7, adding a defender again to the e4 pawn, and also putting a rook behind the passed pawn is great. Putting a queen behind the passed pawn it's even better, well, regardless if it's your own pawn or your opponent's pawn. Also, the f7 pawn is under attack, so first f6, removing that threat, and now king g2, just improving the safety of the king. Rook to c4, and now comes queen to d5. Now Duda offers a trade of queens, and Grischuk accepts with captures, and now rook to d4, again putting the rook behind the passed pawn, and we have rook to b3. Now, if you capture the pawn on d5, you lose the pawn on b4, and then we would have just a 3-on-3 on the king side, of course, a completely drawn endgame. King to g6, Grischuk starts bringing the king into the game. We have king to f3. We have h5, and now comes king to e3, attacking the rook, and here you don't really have a better option. You could go rook to g4 and try to make the game last longer, but after f3, you will have to trade some of the pawns. So here, Grischuk went rook captures on d5, rook captures on b4, and it was in this position on move 38 that the players agreed to a draw. So very exciting stuff, and there were a lot of moves where Grischuk could have maybe brought more poison to the game with that queen to a5 check, maybe, or maybe with that queen captures on e4. But it's hard to say how much of this Grischuk had prepared at home and how much was inspiration over the board. So maybe he already had it all figured out, and we will just never know. If any of you maybe checked the interview, or if there was an interview about this game and you have some more knowledge about this, do share in the comments, and I will of course pin it so everyone else can see. But yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, don't forget to enter the giveaway. The first link in the description below, use hashtag TAL on your comment, and also the second link in the description below, my video when this channel reached 1,000 subscribers, if you want to see how the channel looked back then. It was really bad, so you know, maybe it will inspire some of you to take up YouTube, who knows. But yeah, I would like to thank James Dunn, Henry Campbell, Piotr Skovronski, Gokul G, and Taylor Morgan for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the FIDE Grand Prix and checking up on your wonderful suggestions. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.